left, right.
Yo, what's up? And thank you for joining this episode. This is episode 109, and we just keep chugging along. This is an interesting episode. We're talking about some fentanyl use, some opioid use in the cities. We're talking about some crazy pet peeves, some frustrating moments I've had over the last couple of weeks. I think everybody can relate. You may be on one side or the other side of them, but you'd probably be able to relate. And we're talking about solution to violent crime is solving violent crime as simple as reducing the number of jails that are being built. Give the episode a listen. Shoot me a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. And those of you who do comment in the regular, I read all the comments. I try to get back to you guys. But thank you for being here, and I look forward to more episodes. So I'll see you guys on the other end. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Of course, it's good.
Cheers.
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 Welcome to SipTalk. This is episode 109. My name is Justin DiGiulio. I am sick as a dog. If you can't hear my voice, I am joined by the healthy James, the Boswell Boswell, out of Charleston, South Carolina. James is a referee, an accountant, a professional bartender, and what am I missing here? Philosopher. So we'll get into a little philosophy today about the rule of law. We're gonna talk. I got a few current events, a couple of pet peeves I want to share with you, and I want to talk about speed cameras and red light cameras. Just I don't even know how I stumbled across that, but it's something that drives me nuts, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. I want to start with just being sick. Last week was a stressful week. My family had a little medical emergency, a little bit of trauma. We were in the hospital the majority of the week, so sorry we were offline last week, but thank you guys for joining us today. I'm glad to be back on. But yeah, man, I finally kind of get things back on the rails here. And Sunday night, I'm planning to go to the office Monday. Sunday night, I'm feeling like a little under the weather, and I instantly just got mad. I'm just like, oh shit, like I'm gonna be sick now. I got to go into this week fucking sick. So I figure a couple of drinks can't hurt. I'm gonna go with a high hydration point with the watery Michelob Ultra, one of my favorite beers.
Alcohol is a natural antiseptic, so just have enough of it and it'll flush whatever you're drinking, whatever's fighting you off out.
Well, thank you, Lisa and Debbie. I mentally I'm feeling a little better. I actually haven't eaten much today, so we'll see how fast we degrade here into the when the alcohol hits. And I went for a run.
Doesn't take much.
I went for a run before the podcast, so I just zipped out of the shower and I'm down on a beer. I didn't want to drink too much water before we started because this is SipTalk podcast, and those of you who are watching or listening, we're going to be here for an hour or so drinking. It's really difficult to get, and we don't always make it, but it's difficult to get through the hour without a piss break. So I try not to drink much fluid before the podcast. So I ran, and I'm just following it up. Yeah,
how far did you go, and what's your pace these days?
Oh my God, it's so bad. Also, I worked out chest on Sunday, back on Monday, and they were both like some intense workouts, and I'm sick. So my body hasn't recovered. Every stride, I could feel like every muscle aching. They were like 8.5 minute miles. I did 2 miles and a jog pace. I just needed to, when I get sick, my thinking is like, I want to get my body. You ever heard of an Italian tune-up for a car? You know what an Italian tune-up is?
Yeah.
The mechanic takes the car out. They hit about 100 miles an hour, and they bring it back to you. And supposedly it clears all the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Carbon buildup.
Yeah, the carbon buildup off the spark plugs. And
it's just to take the car out for like 5 or 10 minutes and drive it at high engine load and high RPMs. Get the engine nice and hot and just burn off a whole bunch of stuff.
So when I get sick, which I'm literally dying. When I get sick, I usually that's my goal. I try to run a lot just to get like my sweat kind of going through my body, consume a lot of fluid, a lot of hot beverages. And for some reason, vodka is my go-to when I'm sick. So if we get through these beers, I got a nice Crystal Head vodka here. So what are you drinking down there?
I'm drinking an Edmund's Oast passion fruit sour, and I got a Bush Ice in the holster.
I put a tweet out this over the weekend or earlier this week about how guys in the 80s with long hair liked rock music, and guys today with long hair and man buns are afraid of bread and they drink fruity beers. So are you letting your hair grow?
Yeah, I just haven't had the time to make an appointment with the lady who cuts my hair.
All right. No, I just just a comment there. As long as you don't do the man bun, I get to blow my nose.
My hair doesn't allow for any of that. Like, it's not curly, but it's wavy enough that it really can't ever straighten out. I just want to have an afro.
It's a lot of work, especially if you sleep on it. You got to puff it up in the morning. You got to use a little product. So I got a few pet peeves. I've been out over the last week, and I got a lot of time to let things stew, which is not good. Usually some shit happens, I'm on to the next thing. More shit happens, I'm on to the next thing. Maybe we talk about it a little bit here. But I got a couple of business things. I was in the hospital and I asked for somebody from my office, and obviously, I'm a lucky guy to be able to do this, but I asked for somebody from my office to run down a computer because I didn't realize the sheer amount of time I'd be spending in the hospital. And I said, hey, please bring me a white HP laptop. And what was delivered to me was a black Acer laptop.
So we're close.
You couldn't get further away.
No, we're 1 out of 3.
So what's the laptop?
Yeah.
So when I said,
ooh, strawberry wheat ale sounds good.
I said, what?
5 Mile.
I said, why'd you bring me a black computer? And she goes, oh, well, I tested this one. It was working. And I said, oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. But, I wasn't trying to be argumentative. She's a very sweet girl. I said, but, I did ask for the white one. And she goes, yeah, I know. But I know this one works. Because, there's like one computer that we had to throw a couple computers away like 3 months ago. We went through, made sure everything was fully functional. There's one computer left that one of the buttons doesn't work. But outside of that, all the computers are functional. But either way, her rationale was, I tested this one. I know it works. But she failed to address me requesting the white computer. Like, why would why specifically did I ask for the white computer? And when you made that decision on your own and not reaching back at me and saying, but you asked for the white computer, but I know this one works. Is it okay if I bring this one? Right? They just assumed that was right, even though I went out of my. Why would I ask specifically for one computer?
I would assume that there's files on the white computer that you needed.
No, it's just a smaller, more portable, sturdier computer. And I like that. The other ones are bigger, clunkier, a little slower. So, but that's either way. The fact that I asked for something specifically and then they had a thought in their mind. I heard a story about somebody who asked somebody to go to the paint store or Home Depot or something and pick up a quart of Swiss, I think it's called Swiss coffee or Swiss mocha paint. So the person came back and it was for a bathroom. And the contractor came in after the guy painted the bathroom. And he goes, why did you paint the bathroom shit brown? And he goes, oh, well, you asked for this Swiss coffee color. And he goes, yeah, you know what Swiss coffee is? It's an off-white. So the person was just like, oh, I need to get a brown paint because there's coffee in the name. And came back with a brown paint. To me, it really kind of struck a chord with that. Like somebody taking.
Yeah, but that's different because like I could understand getting a brown paint if you say get Swiss coffee. I'm like, all right, I'm not able to find Swiss coffee, but you asked for a coffee color. Okay,
but that's what the person did. That's what they did.
Yeah, that's a very big difference because their instructions were not super clear, whereas yours were.
Well, that's when somebody asks for a name of. If I asked you for turtle shell green, would you guess the color of a turtle shell and then bring me the closest green that you thought, or would you Google it or like ask the person in the store, do you have a turtle shell green? They're not gonna. I would
ask the person in the store, and if they don't have it, then I'm gonna guess.
The point is that in the request is a certain amount of specificity, and nobody's gonna request this specific particular thing just to waste their breath, and the fact that was just ignored with the fulfillment of the request, and now the request is obviously I made do. I got the computer worked, it worked fine, but I was a bit put off.
All right, here, let me give you another one about like specific instructions. And this is a joke in the computer programming world. So
this is
a husband's about to go to the grocery store, and his wife says, "Oh, before you go, could you please grab a gallon of milk? And if they have eggs, grab a dozen." And so he comes back an hour later with 12 gallons of milk.
Okay.
Who's wrong here?
I get it. I get it in the computer programming. I get the logic to the statement. I'm on the same page. I feel like a lot of people that they missed the logical progression of the request. If there are eggs, then grab 12. But the principle of the command is milk. Exactly.
Right. So grab 1 gallon of milk. If they have eggs, grab 12 gallons of milk.
Oh man.
So who's wrong there?
Well, nobody rationally would grab 12 gallons of milk. The milk's not gonna last. So that's
but the instructions were specific.
And that's why when you have something that you're not sure on, especially when there's something specific, that you would clarify. Somebody in my office was running to grab coffee. What I do is I say, who wants coffee? And then like if you run to get the coffee, I'll buy your coffee. So they said, what do you want? I said, I want a large coffee with a little milk. And they're like, what type of milk? I'm like, regular. And they're like, well, is that whole milk? Is it 2%? Is it almond milk? I'm like, look, I don't know. When I go to Starbucks, which is where they were going, I asked for regular milk, and they give me the coffee, and I'm good.
Probably whole milk.
And she's like, well, is it almond milk? Is it oat milk? Is it soy-free milk or whatever? And I'm like, look, one, I don't think it's almond milk. Two, I don't think it's oat milk. Three, I don't think it's anything that doesn't come from a cow, but I ask for regular and they give me what they give me. So if you just ask for regular, you'll probably get what I get. And that's just go in, ask for regular. They're like, yeah, but I need to know which milk. I'm like, look, you
just say what I say. It'll work out for you.
That was the point that I was making. All right. I don't know if I want to, I feel bad because these are sweet people. The intern that brought me the laptop, the sweetest girl. It was actually her last day, and I wasn't gonna. Usually on the interns, I try to take them out for lunch on their last day, and I wasn't there for that. So it was really sweet of her to come down, and that was nice. And she brought the computer, which is really the moral of the story. I'm going to give you two more pet peeves happened in the office today. Somebody said their clients applied with the on-site leasing office, and the agent showed them the apartment. The agent registered the client, put down his phone number, and we haven't been in touch with the clients. The clients have kind of ghosted us, but we still stand to get paid by the landlord because we brought the client. Now we finally got a hold of the landlord today, and they said, we've been trying to call you for 10 days. The number that your agent put down is incorrect. So I wasn't talking to the landlord. They were talking to the agent. The agent told me, yeah, they've been trying to call us for 10 days, but the number we gave was incorrect. Let me ask you a question. If I gave you the wrong number, would you try me for 9 more days at that number?
I'd probably try 2 or 3 times at the most.
But you know the number's wrong, right?
After like the first time, I'm going to be like, maybe I misdialed it, because like that's happened to me before. So I'm going to dial the number. It's going to come back wrong and be like, all right, I probably punched in a key wrong. I'm going to try it one more time. And I'll be like, all right, maybe I'm just really stupid and I can't type in numbers today. After the 3rd time, I'm like, all right, I've typed in this number right. It's not the right number. I'm done.
Exactly. Yeah. You might try 2 or 3 times in a row in that moment. And then you're just like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good.
That's my point.
But I was like, no, they didn't call us 10 days in a row. Like, it's on us. Like, we should have been following up. Them. Like, no, they said they called 10 days in a row. Well, come on.
Well, then they're idiots.
Hi, Maria. Let's see, 5 million. He's saying it's not hard to clarify the details or to ask where it is. If you want a cheddar, here's some Monster. Yeah, that's the thing. They're like, oh, well, you asked for sharp cheddar cheese and somebody brought back Monster, and they brought back the Munster cheese because it was fresh. Well, but at least talk to the person who made the request. Like, I'll give it to the person. They're like, oh, is that whole milk or is it 2%? I'm like, I don't know. I asked for regular. I got one more for you. And this is the stuff that drives me nuts. So we work with a landlord. He's a really tough landlord. He kills. I think he enjoys killing our deals. So we sent over an application. I follow up with him. I call him, and like a week goes by. I call him every day. I email him every other day, and I can't get a hold of this guy. And I know he's like this. So we prepare the client. We're like, hey, just so you know, landlord's a busy guy. It's kind of a single man show. They have a lot of properties, and it's very, very busy for them right now. They're slow to reply, so bear with us. So on day 6 or so, business day 6, they get back to us. They're like, oh, that place is rented. And he actually asked me for more documents earlier on. So he's like, oh, we need this. And so then I emailed back. I'm like, oh, well, it's rented, but why didn't you tell me this when you were asking for more documents? Either way, he's like, they're rented. Do they want something else? So the agent said they saw another apartment in the building. The super showed it to them. It's not on the landlord's list of vacant apartments. So the landlord hasn't told us about this unit. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to apply for this unit unless like I know all the details about how we came to see it. Like, did we wander into it? If the super showed it to us, like the landlord's going to say, why were you why were you trying different doors in the building? How did you find out about this? And the agent's like, oh, the super showed us. I'm like, okay, tell me exactly what happened. He's like, all right, the super gave me a list of other apartments and we went and saw them. And we applied on 6G. We saw one he didn't say across the hall. We saw another one, 6H. And we want to transfer our application to 6H. Sorry, guys, who are joining us. We're just kind of talking about pet peeves. So thank you for joining. Just bear with me here. So he goes, it's apartment 6H. The super showed it to us. So I emailed the landlord and I said, hey, we were at the building. The super gave us a list of other apartments, and my client really liked apartment 6H, and they consider that if the price is comparable. So the landlord, who I'm trying to save face, like I want to look competent, because this guy's kind of a jerk, all my transactions, I want to dot every I, cross every T, come across sincere and like I'm sharp and I know what I'm doing. So the landlord emails me back and he goes, apartment 6H is an occupied unit. How did you guys go into it's not for rent? The guys aren't moving out. How did you go see this apartment? So now I'm like, fuck. Now I gotta go talk to the agent. I'm like, well, do you know how do you know it's 6H? And he's like, well, there wasn't a label on the door. So there was no apartment number on the door, but it was right across the hallway from 6G.
Okay. So what?
Now, if you've ever been into an apartment building in Manhattan, obviously if there's a G and H, you're probably starting at A. All right. And the way that it works is it's not going to be apartment A and then across the hallway, apartment B, and then across the hall. It's not going to go A, C, right? It's going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then H is going to be next door to G, not across the hallway from G. So I asked, I'm like, specific. I want to know exactly what happened. How did you come about seeing this apartment? And he just made up the apartment number.
Well, and also why, like, if he was interested in the apartment and it truly was open, then why didn't he just ask the super and be like, hey, I don't see the number on that door. Can you tell me what apartment number that is?
And again, sweetest agent. He's a really nice kid. He's not a kid, actually. He's like 30 years old. Really nice guy. Super nice guy. He gets deals. So that's good. He's definitely good with his clients. But I'm like, dude, I need to know exactly what happened. Tell me, you went in the building. When did you called the super before you got there? Like the super walked with you to the apartment doors, or he just gave you the list and said, tell me exactly what happened. But at some point, we just made up this apartment 6H, and the landlord's like, nah, somebody lives there, and they're not moving out. That's the shit that, like, my blood boils when that. And obviously, as far as the landlord's concerned, I'm the one that looks like an idiot. So,
well, it's because somebody didn't cross their T's.
Yeah. And I think obviously because I haven't had much sleep over the last week, and now I'm sick. I'm just like, I'm like 0 to 60 like that. So,
I mean, can I give you one?
Sure, I'm all.
I'll go with one.
I'm all for the pet peeves.
This is relatively recent, but I really don't like it when people don't follow my advice and then ask me to fix the mistakes that they made because they didn't follow my advice.
I'll let you finish, but
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, I figured
tax return.
Yeah,
there's a 2019 partnership return. Originally had a due date of 3/15/20. We extended it till 9/15/20. During that period of time, we ask the client a number of times, hey, this is the information we need to finish the return, right? They don't get it to us by 9/15/20. So we're now 9.5 months after when we should have had the information.
Well, 6
We
months.
don't have it.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Like 3/15 is the deadline. In reality, they should have been able to have this information by like January 15th. We needed literally one document. All we needed to know was what was the interest that they paid on the mortgage that they had and what was the ending balance of the mortgage so we could book the liability.
Yeah, that was sheer laziness.
And so 9/15 comes by and now the extension deadline's passed. We're now in late filing territory. For partnerships, the penalty for late filing is $205 per partner per month. So there's 2 partners on this return, $410 per month.
Nice. All right. Is that a big company? I'm just curious. Obviously.
So, no. It's a small company. It's 2 people that own it. It's a real estate partnership that owns land in a building, and then they rent that land to their own business, which is a separate entity. So it's all kind of self-contained.
When it comes to it, people come to me typically when they're already skidding off the road, and they're like, "Hey, how can I fix this?" I'm like, "Look, I teach you how to drive. All right, I teach you the speed limits. I tell you where your seatbelt, keep your eyes on the road. But once you're skidding off the road, you're either going to hit the tree or you're going to be in the clear. But I can't help you. It's too late. Like it's too late."
Yeah. So now, like it's February or March, and like I'm reaching out to this client because I'm working on some of their other stuff, and I was like, "Hey, by the way, we haven't filed your 2019 return for this partnership. This is what we need." They still don't get it to me. And then I say, "Look, we are in late filing territory. Every single month you don't file, it's another $410.
Yeah, that's wild.
And as soon as they do that, they say, well, why didn't you tell us that there was going to be penalties? I'm like, first of all, we asked you a number of times last year. Second of all,
you should have told them about the penalties.
No, this is not something that like we need to tell them about.
I understand.
You should know that when you late file, there's going to be penalties.
I get that. I would have told
But
them.
it wasn't until we told them that there was going to be penalties that they got us. And then when they got a notice for $3,280.
I figure it was right about that $3,000.
Yeah, $3,280 is what they're assessed. And then they send us an email and say, what's this for? I'm like, we already told you what this is. And then I had to go and write a letter asking for abatement of the penalties, which took up like half an hour or 45 minutes of my day to send to the client for them to mail. I was like, I don't even want to do this because this wasn't an honest mistake. This was you being lazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And so it's just you not listening to me created more work for me later.
Well, that's why you should have told them about the penalties. That's on you. There you go. That's your incentive. So look, here's what I want to talk about real quick. I want to pivot a little bit. I want to talk about AOC. I want to talk about fentanyl, and then I want to talk about traffic light cameras and speed cameras because that's the shit that drives me nuts. You got Lisa who co-signs with you.
Yeah.
It's, basically about people not following your advice and then coming at you. So, but it's frustrating. And, when you work with a lot of other people and like people just do dumb shit. That's the thing. Like you're faced with a lot of decisions and either you can not make the decision and just deal with the outcome, or you can make a decision one way or the other. But a lot of people don't make decisions and just deal with the outcome in like all aspects of life. Or a lot of people actually make the bad decision. I put a post on TikTok the other day that said something along the lines of there's 3 people, that you should be aware of and 2 people you got to take care of. Spend more time taking care of future you and the now you will be happy, right? And the past you will be content. So there's 3 people. All right. Don't spend any time on the past you because it's not going to get you anywhere. And if you spend too much time on the now you, the future you is going to be miserable. And the past you is also going to be miserable.
The past you is not going to be miserable. The past you is past you.
Well, past you, but as you progress into future you, current you becomes past you and you fucked up. Like you didn't take care of the long term. So now you're, kind of like when it comes to dieting or something like that. Like, eating cake's going to make current you happy. But when current you becomes past you, and past you is, fat bastard eating cake.
Fat bastard you is future you.
No. Well, if you're eating, we're not saying that you're trying to get in shape, so you're out of shape. Now you is out of shape.
Yeah, but that's future
all,
you.
all now, past, current, and future. You are all out of shape. All right, you're eating cake now.
Yeah,
That
but that's
means
in the future. So we're still talking about future use.
you're the philosopher here. This is right up your alley, actually.
No, this one's really simple.
Dude, we had cake at the house on. I got cake the other weekend, and nobody really ate it. Then we had cake. The cake's still here. So I'm like, oh shit, this cake's gonna go bad. So I had a monster workout the other day, and then I just ate like half the cake. And I felt good about it. I felt really good about it. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Right after a workout, this is exactly what I needed. I made a little protein shake and I sipped it along
You
with
should
this
have just
cake.
put the cake in the protein shake.
I thought about it, but it would have, but I would no longer would have been eating cake. I would have been eating chocolate flavored protein.
Would have
shake.
been drinking cake.
So yeah, and the protein shake was good and the cake was good. I didn't mix them. But yeah, and it felt good. It felt good. You know, I've been trying to hit the weights a little harder lately, just to deal with the last week or so, just to deal with frustration and bullshit. So, cake's gone now though. All right, what I saw an AOC quote. I think I saved it here somewhere. But her solution to reducing violent crime was to build fewer prisons. You have thoughts on this?
I do, but I need to think about where they land. It's obviously
but hold on. That's not a solution.
well, no, it's conflating cause and effect.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's the we need to address the cause. People committing violent crimes has very little to do. You could bend it far enough to say, the prison system is bad, but ultimately, I'll read you the quote. If we want to reduce violent crime, if we want to reduce the number of people in our jails, the answer is to stop building more of them.
Well, hold on a sec. That's technically correct.
Yes, that is correct. Yes. If we want to stop seeing fat people in jeans, all right, we got to stop making jeans that fit fat people.
Right.
End of story. Now there's
if we want to reduce our prison, like if we don't want to have a prison population, don't have prisons.
Yeah, that's
not going to eliminate crime. That's just going to eliminate prisons.
Nor is not making plus size jeans going to eliminate fat people, right?
It's just going to eliminate fat people wearing jeans.
It is exactly, and violent criminals being in jail will be eliminated by not having.
Now, here's where you can twist the argument a little bit to get it to make more sense. Is you can say that if there are for-profit prisons, which there are very many of, and they continue to build more of them, and the for-profit prisons donate to the police unions, then the police unions have an incentive to arrest people to increase the populations of the for-profit prisons. So you could have a system that tries to self-sustain in a way that negatively impacts society because of the existence of prisons. But that's a completely different argument from how to eliminate crime. That's just basically saying we're enforcing things that we shouldn't be enforcing, or we're applying punishments that aren't really necessary to enrich the people that are building prisons.
Let me read you the next line. But look, you
follow the argument though.
I do. And my thinking on for-profit prisons is somewhere along these lines. Look at public housing. Nobody wants to live in public housing. Public housing is trash. So if you put the prison systems in the hands of the government, it's not going to get better for the people that are in jail, right?
It's a really poor argument.
But I think a lot of that stands up.
It falls apart because the aim of public housing is different than the aim of prisons.
I agree with you there.
And because the goals don't align, you can't say that public housing being administered poorly means that public prisons will be administered poorly, whereas private housing is more efficient. Therefore, private prisons are more efficient because private housing has a different goal than private prisons do.
Sure, but run by public services, you got to deal with the bureaucracy of the government, and shit goes to shit. Things go to shit when I sure, some things will be solved, but I think generally the prisons will decay, and I don't think the public is doing a very good job in a lot of things. You look at infrastructure, you look at schools. Nobody in New York City wants to go to a fucking public school. Parents are terrified of that. And schools are nothing like housing, right? But public schools suck.
No. Public schools have a different goal from housing.
Hey, that's my point. But it's still run by the government, and that's the issue. The issue is the government. The issue is that the government's doing a shitty job. But here, let me read you the next line. If we want to reduce violent crime, if we want to reduce the number of people in our jails, the answer is to stop building more of them. And then she continues. The answer is to make sure, and here she's right. The answer is to make sure that we actually build more hospitals, we pay organizers, we get people mental health care and overall health care, employment, etc. It's to support communities, not throw them away. And that's a good point. But her first statement doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes.
And when you say nonsense things,
her first statement makes complete sense in the context of, if you want to reduce prison population, have less prisons. But that doesn't address the root cause of crime.
We want to reduce violent crime. So it's a two-parted predicate. If you want to reduce violent crime, if you want to reduce the number of people in our jails, right? It's two-parted. So the answer is to stop building more of them. And that's,
but you need to make sure that you're tying each argument appropriately to its context. Because if she's saying, if you want to reduce the number of people in jails, stop building so many of them, that statement holds up pretty clearly. And if you want to reduce violent crime, let's support hospitals and education and mental health and community services, that statement also holds up. Well, so again, if you're trying to crisscross the statements, if you're saying reduce prison population by building less prisons, reduce violent crime by supporting community activities and everything, those two stand on their own. But if you try and cross them and you start with one crap.
But look, no, here's what happened. She lost the listeners. She lost anybody who. The issue is, when you're talking to a crowd, you have to win over the people that disagree with you. You're not there to win over the people that already you have. Right? You're there to win over the people that disagree with you. And when you say nonsensical sentences that turn people off, they stop listening. That's it. They stop listening. So you say a sentence like that. It doesn't matter what else you say. You've lost. That's it.
Yeah, I still think that you might be misreading her statement to draw the wrong conclusion.
I'm now reading the whole statement, right? The statement says, if you want less fat people wearing jeans, you need to stop making plus size jeans. The real answer is you need to make people eat healthier and encourage people to exercise. But when you say, if you want to see less fat people in jeans, stop making plus size jeans, you lost people. People tune out. They're like, you're crazy. You're loco. You can't say stuff like that. And
I don't know. If someone said something like that, I'd immediately be more interested in whatever they're saying next.
You might be. Most people would not be. What's up, Alejandro in Mexico?
Buenos dias.
What's up, Christine, who might be moving to Florida? She might be in Florida by now, actually. But Cake is still there. I'm on my way. Sorry, Raj. Cake is gone. So I got the AOC. Then I wanted to. This kind of coincides with the violent crime and the drug use. I was reading an article today on drug use in San Francisco. I was going to bring it up on the next podcast when David joins us from Sacramento, but he may not. He may. He's in Sacramento, so
it's relatively close to San Francisco. It's about an hour and a half.
It's not that close. I couldn't tell you anything going on in any towns an hour and a half from my house, except for Manhattan. So, and it's a big city, so maybe he knows. I don't know. But I spend almost every day in Manhattan. I don't know if he spends almost every day in San Francisco. But they were talking about the drug use just being rampant in the streets. And this is interesting. The hospitals and the police were saying that opioids are really not as common. Most of the drug use and the crime is based around fentanyl.
Fentanyl's a synthetic opioid.
It's is it addictive?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. but it works a lot faster than.
No, it doesn't work faster. It just is stronger. It's the difference between, this is a poor analogy, but it works. Where if you have morphine is like beer, heroin would be like wine, and fentanyl would be like Everclear, where they all do the same thing and they all work the exact same speed. It's just it's much easier to overdose on Everclear if you're taking 12 ounces of a beer, you're going to be fine. If you take 12 ounces of wine, you're probably going to be okay. Like you'll feel something, but you'll be okay. You take 12 ounces of Everclear, you're probably going to be in the hospital. And the difference is you're not going to be able to take 12 ounces of Everclear because if you have a couple drops on your tongue, it burns and you immediately know. But to know if you're doing heroin, to know how much fentanyl has been mixed in with the heroin is almost impossible to know unless you have some kind of chemistry kit to be able to separate the two out. So it would be like drinking a glass of wine and not being able to taste the difference between wine and Everclear. And then at the end of it, being passed out, vomiting from alcohol poisoning because you didn't realize that you were drinking 95% alcohol instead of 12% alcohol. So it works on the same receptors. It has the exact same effect on the body. It's just much stronger.
Yeah, well, I read actually that compared to morphine, morphine kicks in, roughly 30 minutes in, and that fentanyl kicks in almost instantly.
No, that's going to be a delivery system. If you're taking something intravenously, then it's going like morphine, heroin, and fentanyl are all going to be injected into your veins, and they're all going to be in your bloodstream at the exact same moment, and they're all going to do the exact same thing. It's just the strength with which they do it. Like when I was in the hospital, when I broke this arm in 2 places.
That was wrestling, right?
It was
junior year wrestling.
Sophomore.
So just so those of you guys who don't know the story, James was in a wrestling match. We were all watching. The wrestling team was watching, and James, James, you weren't a great wrestler, but you were a technical wrestler, and you wrestled, and you fought. You didn't give up. Like you weren't.
It wasn't my first wrestling match. I had enough knowledge to know what I was supposed to do.
My point is that you weren't a shitty wrestler, right? You weren't a great wrestler, but you were.
I wasn't completely incompetent. I just wasn't great.
Yeah, but you were wrestling the guy and losing, but you weren't losing by a lot.
Well, it was really early in the match. We started off. He shot a single, and so now he's got my leg under his arm. And so what you're supposed to do then is you're supposed to put your back to his back and try and get back on top of him.
Your chest.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Your chest to his back. And so when I did that, the balance shifted and I had to put my arm down on the mat for balance. So that way I didn't fall over and immediately be like underneath him. And so as our weight shifted, I kept on putting more and more weight on my arm. And it was the first match of the season. And I'm just like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to fight. And like more and more weight shifted onto my arm until both his weight and my weight were on my arm. And then my arm said, no, not happening today. And I just felt crack. My arm gave out. And I was like, I don't know what that was, but it didn't feel good.
I want to share from my perspective, because that was the interesting perspective, in my opinion. I don't know. You were there. Yours probably more interesting, but it's a funny story because we saw this guy shot you. He grabbed your leg. You're fighting back. You guys go down and you're kind of like tussling a little bit. And then you just give up. You just give up and roll over. And we're like, that was weird. He just kind of gave up and he got pinned. And then you walk over to shake so typically in high school wrestling, you shake the opposing coach's hand at the end of the match. You walked over to shake the coach's hand. You stuck your arm up and it went like.
Well, no, it was my left arm. So I went to shake him with my right arm because that was the good arm. And like, I remember, so as soon as I felt the arm give out, I was like, that's not good. And I was like, I don't know exactly what happened, but I know enough that I shouldn't be wrestling anymore.
I remember you holding up your arm and it went in like a Z pattern.
Yeah. And so like, I immediately let him pin me because I'm like, there's more important things at foot here. We'll find out what they are in about 10 seconds. And I remember getting up through the haze of the adrenaline and now like the endorphins as my body enters into shock, which happens really quickly.
Yeah.
And like this dizzying view, and I look up and my arm is just like in a boomerang. And I was like, oh, Yeah, that makes sense. And then, like, again, I'm just kind of on autopilot. It's like after the match, what do? You go shake the opposing coach's hand. So that's what I did. And then I come back to our coach and I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
I
my
just
mom
remember you
was there,
holding up your
actually.
hand like.
And so
like,
she drives me to Albany Med, and we get to Albany Med. We're in the ER, and this was probably one of the quickest triages that they'll ever do because they're just like, "Oh, all right, you're in. We don't need to ask you any questions. We'll figure out other things later." And so now I'm in like a hospital bed in the back of the ER, and like one of the nurses comes up and she's like, "We're not doing anything until we get some pain medication for you." He's like, "We need to get that x-rayed, obviously, but we're not going to ask you to do anything until we're able to get you some pain medications."
Smart thinking.
And so
smart thinking.
they gave me morphine, and they're just like, "We need to get this as fast as possible." So they gave me like an IV of morphine, and they didn't even have time to like actually set up like an IV drip or anything. So they basically just had like a syringe full of morphine, and they said, "All right, here you go." And like they injected it right around where my elbow is. And I will never forget this sensation because like my body's in shock. I'm like in a fair bit of trauma from this. And so just stressed and agitated and everything. And then there's this little pinprick. And then there's relaxation starting at my elbow. And then every heartbeat, just this feeling of relaxation moves down my arm,
that is
up
wild.
my arm, through my shoulder, across my chest. And the sensation was almost instant. Like it took a while to spread across my body, but the sensation of going from feeling completely awful to feeling relaxed, and I wouldn't say happy. I wasn't happy, but
well,
and so I remember
considered.
I was just like, I can see how people get addicted to this. And so fentanyl was going to do the exact same thing if you injected intravenously. You just need a lot less to achieve the same result, which is why it's so easy to overdose. It's about 40 times stronger than heroin, I think.
Yeah, man. But
later that night, I got fentanyl when they had to reset my arm.
Oh shit! Yeah,
because my mom was there, and she's like, "Yeah, they're giving you fentanyl and Versed. Versed a fast-acting benzodiazepine. It's basically a knockout punch.
Yeah,
they give it to you, and like you count back from 10, and by the time you make it to about 6, your memories stop. Like you're just out. And so then they gave me fentanyl because fentanyl's a really good pain medication. So now I count back from 10, and I'm out. And then at some point, I don't know how much time passed, but I remember waking up to 2 residents torquing on my arm.
Oh, fuck.
And that was enough to wake me up from my fentanyl haze because it hurt so much.
Wow.
And that woke me up. And then like once they got the arm realigned, now they're casting it and I'm awake now. And I'm just sitting there in this fentanyl haze, and way off in the distance, I've got an oxygen mask on, and I hear, "James? James?" Right. And "James, you need to remember to breathe." I just remember sitting there. I was just like, that's too much work. I am too happy right now. This feels really, really good.
Oh, fuck.
And I remember after that, I was like, I can never go near anything like that because I can see how addictive it is. For me to be in that state where breathing is too much work, I'm that happy.
That's the thing about drugs. Drugs are good. Drugs are good. When here's my advice for all kids. Somebody offers you drugs, and you say the first best answer is no, thank you. But if somebody's offering you drugs, they're probably going to be like, no. Trust me, try it. You'll like it. Your answer needs to be, I know I'll like it, but no, thank you. I believe you. I believe you. It's going to make me feel good, but I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Like, I know I'm going to like it. Like, somebody offers me a piece of cake under most circumstances. I say, no, thank you. Like, it's really good cake. And I'm like, yeah, but these are really nice pants and I want to fit into them. And you'd be surprised the amount of times you get offered cake. More times than I get offered drugs.
Depends on where you go.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, that's so when it comes to the different opioids or whatever, they all act on the brain in basically the same way. And if you're taking pills like Oxycontin or something, then it's going to take a lot longer for it to hit you because it's a time release and it takes time to make it through your digestive system. But If you're injecting it, it doesn't matter what strength it is. It's going to act on the body the same way. It's just what magnitude of an effect it has.
Well, here's what's next for all of us. We're all going to be on low dosages of intravenous synthetic drugs, and we're all going to be in virtual reality, buying and selling NFTs. That's just what's next for us.
As someone who holds stock in an NFT company, people need to start buying more NFTs.
NFTs it's brilliant that that's a topic of conversation.
I don't understand it. I just invest in it because I don't like having money.
No, it's definitely going to be. We should do another topic about NFTs, but they're going to be big. It's the way I heard it described was to basically to an adult, like, hey, do you give your kid your credit card so they can buy stuff on Fortnite? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, the shit they're buying, that's NFTs. The armor they're buying, that's NFT. Like they're buying.
Not entirely.
Well, yes and no. Yeah, you're right and I'm right, but
the analogy holds to a certain degree.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to get too much into it because we need to do a whole podcast on NFT.
Okay.
So we'll get there soon. Just want to say hi to Gilbert in Laredo, Texas, and let's talk about traffic lights. Traffic light cameras. Recently got a ticket for driving in a bus lane. And I turned down 14th Street in Manhattan, which basically separates like lower midtown from effectively like downtown. Like anything below 14th Street is like Greenwich Village, West Village, Greenwich Village, East Village is below 14th Street. And we really consider that the line for downtown. Now, I heard on the radio that 14th Street is now only for buses. But I was crossing 14th Street perpendicularly, and I looked down 14th Street and there were cars driving down 14th Street. So I'm like, and I'm looking, there's no signs that say no turns. So I turn on 14th Street, drive down, just got a ticket in the mail. Actually, I didn't get a ticket in the mail. Sauce got a ticket in the mail because the car is registered in her name. So that's one of the other elements I want to talk about, speeding cameras, because 2019, I went out to Long Island. Adam Sindaban, who's been on this podcast before. For some reason, I left my motorcycle at the office in Manhattan, and we took the car out to Long Island. So we drove the car back together, and then we drove to the office. I hopped on the bike and drove the bike home, and he met me at the apartment. Lo and behold, even though we're both dudes, so we hadn't mentioned anything, but we were racing each other. So of course he was exceeding the speed limit in the 911 in Midtown Manhattan, and he got a ticket. But
you
of course,
got a ticket.
I got a ticket. Exactly. So that's the one of the smaller issues with red light cameras and speeding cameras is that the ticket goes to who the car is registered to. So if you're an adult and you have kids, you get teenagers, they're driving your cars because should a teenager be paying $230 a month for full coverage insurance, or should they be paying $78 a month under your policy for full coverage insurance? I don't think any parent, can say, look, teenager, you got to pay me. But you'd be a shitty parent if you're like, yeah, you're going to pay $230 a month for the same policy you would have under me at $78 a month.
It's just whatever my policy would be without you, you're paying the difference for it with you.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and it comes out better than if you have your own policy.
Yeah, it's a win-win for the teenager. It's maybe not a win-win, but the car's registered in the parents' name. So the parents are going to get the ones that are getting these electronic tickets.
So here's my issue with red light cameras and speeding tickets in general is that there's kind of this tacit agreement between the public and law enforcement that there is an acceptable level of speeding on a given road at a given time. And it depends on what road you're on. But if you're going the speed of traffic and you're not driving aggressively or causing problems, then it doesn't really matter what speed you're going. You're not going to get pulled over. So if you're on a highway and it's a 55 and everyone's around you is doing 65, and you're also doing 65, technically you're breaking the law, but you're not going to get pulled over because the police take context into consideration and they are not going to pull you over. And so there's this kind of unwritten agreement between the public and police that as long as we're not doing things to draw attention to ourselves or be problematic, then you allow us to break the law in small and harmless ways, and you don't punish us for it. Red light cameras break that agreement because all they do is measure your speed and then send you a ticket.
No, not red light cameras, speed cameras.
Red light cameras can check speed too.
Yeah, but red light cameras is not everybody's running a red light. Like,
right, but I'm using red light cameras as a umbrella term.
The last traffic. So I have to drive to the train station every morning. The last light, and sometimes I'm cutting it close. The last light is 1:40, which is a long ass traffic light. So there's been times where I've taken a right turn. I have to take a left turn at this light. I've taken a right turn and done a U-turn and then come back to avoid this light, which is also illegal. I don't know. I should have just taken the fucking left turn, I guess. But the train's coming. I got to get on the train. This morning I missed the train. I had to catch the next train. It came a fucking hour later. And the thing is, near where my house is, there's this quarry, and there's all these giant trucks that are full of rocks, and it's like this long mountainy curvy road that, because it's a fucking quarry, that these trucks drive on. So what could take me 4 minutes sometimes takes 12 minutes. So sometimes, like, they're with the stoplights and everything like that, these slow ass trucks just slow me down. And then obviously the cake topper is a lot of cake tonight. The cake topper is this final traffic light right before. That's 1:40 seconds, and I'm just like, this is fucking insane.
Yeah, that's my view, is that red light cameras break the agreement between public and police.
Look, the roads in New Jersey, now I'm commuting obviously every day. I got a highway at 65 mile an hour speed limit. Everybody does 80 to 85. Now, when I'm in the pickup truck, I can't keep up. Right. So I'm always surprised. And every once in a while, there'll be somebody doing like 65, 70, which is the speed limit +5. And people are just whizzing by them, like blowing their horns. In the Audi, I'm good. Just bzz, bzz, and I can stay with traffic. But 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, which is just wild. And sometimes
that's normal though.
But everybody's doing it. I struggle to keep up in the pickup truck. I'm like, this is fucking fast. Sometimes I got shit in the back of the pickup truck that's like not secured down. Like sometimes like garbage or some shit. Got some cardboard boxes in there this week. And I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go too fast, right? I don't want that shit to blow away. And I'm not about to pull over on the side of the highway and tie the shit down. So, but yeah, the issue, let me check my notes here. The problem with traffic light cameras and speed cameras, who's asking for them?
The cities see them as a free source of revenue.
Well, yes, but how do they get requested in school zones, in residential areas, and high pedestrian areas, like Midtown Manhattan, Times Square type thing?
Yeah, but they don't do anything to actually reduce the danger to the people that they're seeking to protect. They just fine people for breaking the law.
Well, the argument would be that people will know. So you're right. Now, if there's a sign that says red light camera, now you have a double-edged sword, because it encourages people to slow down. It discourages people from speeding. But when you see this sign out of the blue, what do? You look down and check your speed.
Well, you know what you could also do is you could just put the sign that says red light camera and not actually have a red light camera. It'll serve the same purpose.
Very good point. So you have this sign that says red light camera, and people immediately look down. They don't look at the road. They don't look at the sidewalk. They don't look in the rearview mirror. They look down at their speedometer. Not good. So I was reading a British study today about how I think there's other studies that contradict this, but where they've put where they've put speed cameras, there are more accidents.
No, it's not surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the data is probably pretty thin on that, but because there's not that many accidents. It's not like people are getting an accident, 15, 20 times a day. It's like a couple times a month, maybe, especially in England. But the argument is that it saves lives, but
no, it doesn't.
It's really a income generation source for the city. That's impossible to argue because the city's the one calibrating them. So, just like my issue with my pet peeves earlier on, everybody's going to justify everything. And you're asking the authority to justify themselves. Like they're the authority at the end of the day. So it's a lose-lose. I got pulled over in Harlem once, and I might have been going a little fast, but it was like one of those thunderstorms where like the rain it's like total monsoon, like all of a sudden, instantly. And I'm trying to pay attention and drive, and there's a guy that's got his speed gun on me, and he pulls me over, and he tickets me for doing like 35 and a 25, nothing excessive. And I think it was 40 and a 25, and I was like, doesn't the rain interfere with that? And he's like, well, it's he's like, you were doing 40 and a 25. So we went to court, and so he reads a statement about how he calibrated, and he went through the checklist of everything he did to verify that his speed camera was good. And I was like, so you remember that? And I'm like, now I'm just talking to the guy in court. I'm like, so you remember that day very clearly, right? And he says, yes, of course, I have everything documented here. And I'm like, okay, so you know that I was going north, you were aimed south, correct? And I'm like, what was the weather at the time of the event? And he's like, oh, that's irrelevant. I'm like, well, one, I imagine that, if there was precipitation, it might interfere. But two, you got all these notes, you don't remember anything. It was a severe downpour. Either way, I fucking lost. I don't know, 2 points in my license. I got a decent number of points in my. I was in the Hamptons, 2018.
We got like 1 minute left.
Yeah, I got 5 minutes left by the Facebook clock, and Facebook is a clock we measure by. So it was bumper to bumper traffic. I've been sitting there for like 15 minutes. Nobody's going anywhere. So I just did a U-turn, and it was like, the Hamptons. The Hamptons. Your grandparents were out there.
No, they were about halfway out. They were in Blue Point near Patchogue, which is about halfway. Hamptons are like 3/4 and then farther out.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's like it's a really like Back to the Future hometown type vibe. Like you got all the storefronts on Main Street type of thing. So I did a U-turn. Other people were doing U-turns. Police pulled me over, and they were like, "Oh, you did a U-turn. That's illegal." I'm like, "Oh, other people are doing it. I didn't realize." Like, well, there's a double yellow line, which also carries 2 points.
I would say, well, what if I need to take a left? Am I not allowed to do that over a double yellow line?
I'm sure there would be an opening in the. Either way, 2 points in my license. I don't know.
One for each line.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. And then obviously the insurance shit goes up. I've had a radar detector since 2004. People gave me money in high school when I graduated to buy college textbooks, and I basically just bought auto parts and sunglasses. It's a little fucked up. I did buy some textbooks, but
explains your grades.
Yeah, I mean, I never read them. I never opened. How my friend George, right?
Yeah,
Lebanese George. Him and I are friends because I brought my calculus textbook to class every day, and then he would borrow it. I never opened that. Literally, I never opened that textbook once.
How'd you do in calculus?
Poorly. I went on to Calc 2, and I don't know if I passed Calc 2 or I almost didn't. I don't know. I went and retook Calc 1 again though, because I was like, fuck, I definitely didn't learn Calc 1. So I had to retake Calc 1 so that I could understand what they were trying to teach me in Calc 2, which was actually helpful. We had a really good math teacher, but I never opened the textbook, and he used to borrow it. So I did buy textbooks. But the point is, once I graduated high school, people were giving me, I love being a kid. People give you birthday cards, and they give you graduation cards and shit, and there's cash in there. So I bought a radar detector. I bought that Valentine 1 radar detector, and I've never gotten a ticket with a radar detector. So, in my opinion, good investment. $400 out the door, saved me hundreds of dollars in attorney fees and speeding tickets. So that's my advice, kids. Buy a radar detector, but don't be stupid. Drive safe. All right. Don't do shit that we used to do in the fucking mountains, racing each
I
other.
thought you said don't do something I wouldn't do. Like that's poor advice.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. You learn your own lessons, but just don't be fucking dumb. On that note, though, guys, let's cut. We're at the hour mark. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for all the nice messages last week. Obviously, you guys knew that I had some shit going on, so thank you for that. Thank you to Rosh, who's manning the SipTalk podcast platform. Thank you, Raj, for that. He's watching your comments and keeping us online. So, and he's feeding us your comments. So, Raj, James, stick around. I'm going to do this awkward dismount where I say goodbye to everybody. All right. All right. Goodbye, everybody. All right. That concludes this episode. What did you think? Was AOC right? Am I wrong? Was James right? Was I right? All right. That's it. Let me know. Let me know what you thought. I will see you guys next time.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.